For plebs, by plebs, dropping the Bitcoin only signal. Pleb Underground. Welcome everyone to the Pleb Underground.
Fuck the police coming straight from Pleb Underground. Fuck your girl too, humming late on her underground. Relationships are harder at a distance. Still sending pics are still harder at a distance. Some good at building, some can tweak it. English motherfucker, do you speak it? Automate the cashier. Bitcoin in self-custody, so no cash here. GM, good morning, time to get caffeine in. Helps enunciation, so you know what I'm meaning. Made out of it for her, dusted off for the cleaning. Bond age equals maturity. Fuck dominance, Bitcoin purity. Test. Fiat rulers are sadistic. Trick you into masochistic. Life isn't all smooth, the fairway needs a trim. If you're feeling rough, you gotta get in the gym. Elevator broken, but I like deadlifts. Only 850 for a smile while she grifts. If you're on BT, you have an online presence. Gang gang, online presence. There's only Bitcoin plebs and online peasants. We say go fuck yourself, excuse the not so pleasants. Are you like Udi with a victim mentality? Kick him out with a victim mentality. 1, 2, 3, 4 boat trips persistence. Underwhelms with the send 4 ships resistance. Writing infused with sadness helps. Sometimes I put my foot in it bigger than Michael Phelps. On the draw like the game, earning next flows. There's more to this game than learning XOs. Put a team together, 11 more. Work hard until you're tick-tocking, next block until heaven's door. The old memes don't hit the same. They don't do it anymore. Corporate plebs just want the fame. Take any sponsor just to whore. Tick-tocking, next blocking till heaven's door. Bitcoin isn't wet, it's kind of dry like talcum. What you post on Nostr can't be erased like Malcolm. In the bear market, when things are looking kind of dreary, we got new maxis repeating old ideas, call it recycle theory. Gotta stay solvent, gotta make figures. Run a node so they can't fake figures. Bitcoin Twitter is full of plebs, influenza, and hate figures. Bitcoin uses integers, so a whole one's 8 figures. Don't eat the bugs, fix them, check the monthly review. Notre invité est français, et donc bienvenue. This money is sound, so we'll decompose it like Fourier, the king of the BTCpayServer ring, Nicolas, Dorier.
Love the rhyme. Caught what you did there with the 850. And guys, in case you didn't understand who is joining us, that's right, we have the creator, I guess we'll say the emperor, right? The emperor of BTCpayServer, is that what it says? Nicolas Dorier.
Yep.
My dude, thank you so much for joining us on Pleb Underground. This is insane.
My pleasure.
I have to admit, I'm a huge fanboy. I am, and we are going to dive into some of that fanboyism. But before we do, we are going to move on over to the numbers.
Yeah, the numbers brought to us by TimeChain Canada and TimeChain Stats. TimeChain Stats actually recently installed BTCpayServer onto their site. So if you want to donate to the Bitcoin only cookie-free dark mode by default timechainstats.com, you can do so using BTCpayServer on their site. So yeah, Phil, what are the numbers look like this week?
At the time of this recording, the block height is 799,648. The fiat Bitcoin exchange 29,888.84. Moscow time 33:45. Fastest fee. Look at that. 15. Look at that. 15 sats per VByte. Looks like the ordinals are still not winning. Not winning at all. And chain rewrite days 735. Pretty secure. All right, those are the numbers. Walton, what do you think? Are ordinals, are they winning? Are they winning? I don't think they're winning.
I keep forgetting about them, to be honest.
That's kind of where they are.
Maybe it's not really down to ordinals anymore. I mean, like going up to you said 14.
15.
Like
15 sats.
Okay, like anything under 20, I don't think is that significant. Like again, like back in like Q2 2021, I paid over 100 sats per VByte to open a Lightning channel. Like yeah, low double digits, meh. Like yeah, I now try and do everything as like 1 sat or 2 sat per VByte because I'm stingy fucker. But like I don't know. Again, it's like Uber Surge, right? Like if you're in a rush, then you pay the fee.
You know what? I've been wanting to pick your brain, Nicolas, about this. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on ordinals and inscriptions?
I don't like a bit of my background when I started in Bitcoin. Actually, one of the first thing I was working on was about a protocol that was called Open Assets to create that was a way to, it was collared coin on Bitcoin. It was like ERC20 in Bitcoin. It was kind of a protocol that allowed to do that. So I worked on that on 2015 or something like this. I grew up no, not liking it at all. Like I'm kind of happy that it moved to other chains. And as far as ordinal are concerned, I mean, like, I don't think we should do anything to stop it. Like, people do what the fuck they want. Yeah, I will be grateful if they just move it to some other chains.
And you know what? The wish did come true, because as we saw last week, the shitcoiners created ETH-scriptions, which is essentially just the exact same thing, but on ETH it's a little bit more rug pullable. So the use case works over there.
I thought they called the standard here for doing that BRC20, but now they are porting the BRC20 on Ethereum, so it's kind of a full loop.
Yes,
you can now stake or like staked Ethereum or something like that. I'm like, it just sounds so fucking fiat. It's like how there's insurance and then there's reinsurance and then there's reinsurance and then there's reinsurance and then there's reinsurance and then there's like bonds on top, and it's just like it's fiat games. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, I totally agree. And guys, we're gonna take a look at our first article for the numbers. Here we go.
So apparently, like, this is a lesson. Actually, you shouldn't tell anyone how much Bitcoin you have, especially if you have like lots of Bitcoin like this guy. I mean, he's saying hypothetically, but I think this guy's doxing the order of magnitude of Bitcoin that he has, which I think is a bad idea. I mean, especially if you have lots. Okay, so he's saying like, look, let's say he's just talking about the psychology of hodling here. If you have 100 Bitcoin, or if you had 100 Bitcoin in this cycle, it went up to about $69,000. So 100 Bitcoin would be $6.9 million. So he's saying $7 million, and it then go down to about $1.5 million. When it goes down to about 15K, right? And he says, you wonder if you fucked it up, how long will it take for it to kind of go back up?
He's talking
right?
about
I think
difficulty.
I'm a couple cycles behind, I think, in my journey compared to this guy. But still the shift from going, yeah, okay, I need to like not eat out so much anymore. So, yeah, certain behaviors that are more high time preference, you have to kind of rein them in a little bit in the bear market. But I think that's kind of a good thing. I think it's actually kind of, and cycle theory is bullshit, by the way. Like, yes, there is such thing as stock to flow, but stock to flow, the model is just nonsense.
Use my reference.
But I do like that you get times when when Bitcoin is pumping, and times when it's not doing so well, because when it's not doing so well, it means that actually you should spend some time building in multiple areas in your life. And so I think it's a bit like there's a kind of tidal nature to it, and I think that's good. I think that's a good way to live. Is you shouldn't be kind of on all the time. It's nice to have kind of yeah, like a wax and wane to life.
So, Nicolas, I definitely, knowing how long you've been in the space, I know you've seen a few cycles as well. This is, in my case, it's my third cycle in terms of the halvenings. Yeah, I call them halvenings. I know it's not a word. But what are your, yeah, fuck you, Walton. I like that word. Okay. Anyways, so tell me, Nicolas, what are your thoughts? What is the most difficult thing in your eyes about Bitcoin? Because Dafar in the tweet is essentially talking about the point of it's actually harder not to sell your Bitcoin because of the volatility. What are your thoughts?
I must say I'm not very too much impacted by the volatility, because on my side, like so long as you have enough money for living comfortably, like you have nothing really that you want to buy, then that for this guy that his stash is like 7 million and 1.5 million, I doubt that he would change his everyday life.
Imagine if you've got that sort of money, the house that your wife is picking out with your wealth being this or this is quite different. Maybe that's where the argument is coming from. I don't know his personal situation, but like this is ultimately, I think, what are you going to do with the wealth? And I think like eventually I think people do look to acquire land, property, because they want a home. You know, they want somewhere that they can make theirs. Maybe not everyone, but a lot of people, certainly people who are trying to make and raise families.
I mean, the best justification for selling Bitcoin, if you want to buy something else, like on my side, I think that if this guy, for example, wanted to buy land, or like I don't know, make his wife to stop working for like the rest of her life or something like this, if at one point it reached 7 million, he already had the opportunity to do this. He didn't do that. So I mean,
Bitcoin to do it, I think, is maybe the point. I don't know. Yeah, but I agree. It's pretty. Maybe there's some.
So he don't really want to buy something. He don't really want to buy a holiday for his wife. He don't really want to buy the piece of land.
Yeah.
He say he want to buy, but he don't do it. So it's like, it remind me a bit like I think, was it Mrs. Ludwig Mises, that I think it was in Human Action, where he noticed that, lots of people say, I want to do that, I want to do this, but at the end of the day, what they really want is only relieved when they do a transaction. Else, like, you just talk. You don't want to do that.
I can actually explain why this is. There's you get not all of, but you get a significant proportion of the dopamine reward from telling people that you're going to do something compared to actually doing it. And so this is why you get a lot of people saying they're going to do all sorts of things, because it gets them part of the reward. They say no person is greater than their incentives. This is a prime example of that.
Yeah, I totally agree on this. Like, either that, or like they are not clear in their mind about what they really want. I mean, if at one point he gets 7 million, he didn't sell, and he wants the house, it doesn't make sense to me. But yeah,
it's cope. It's cope.
It's cope.
It's also it's also, I think, the mental roller coaster. I mean, for any of us who have been in this space for a while, and if you've decided to accumulate any significant amount of Bitcoin, when you see that type of fluctuation, and again, this goes back to Nicolas's point, right? If you're being reasonable and you're not the kind of person that is just, wasting money left and right, chances are Bitcoin's fluctuations, like, you're not really going to care. Like, I mean, I can tell you in my case, I live very simply, and I don't really, I mean, like, yeah, obviously, I watch the Bitcoin fluctuations. I watch the Bitcoin chart every day. I always have it up, but I don't really, like, it doesn't change my life, right? Like, whether it goes up or down, I don't sit there and think, missed opportunities or anything like that. But here's a really good illustration, though, about the purchasing power, because we are in the numbers, right? The numbers section, and we are going to look at some number stuff, and take a look at this visualization. It's a tweet from Thomas Farrer, and here we go. If you don't believe me or don't get it, I'll try to explain it to you, because this is very important. And I really do like this visualization. Okay, so this is the cash 1 ounce of US gold coin in 2020, $1,770. 1 ounce US gold coin, 1933. $20. 67 cents. That is an absolutely fantastic visualization. And
I hate the visualization because there's no ounce of gold in the picture. They've got time going from right to left, and the guy that posted it is a bit of a weird character. Like, do you know BTC Shire, like
absolutely.
Bitcoin Shire? He was posting that this what's his name, Thomas, has been like unfollowing people, like, and I was like, he did it to me too. It's like 3 times, 4 times, or whatever. Like a few of the Apollo Sats people have been doing it.
We helped him with his clout chase.
Guerrilla marketing. Like, no.
I can definitely appreciate that. I can appreciate that. For me, I think it was just more the reason why I liked it. It had to do with, obviously with the aspect of inflation. Nicolas, what's your favorite visualization or characterization to show the difference, I guess, between fiat and Bitcoin? Because, like, I mean, I feel like you've seen the memes from the beginning, and they have come a long way.
The meme that I know the most, for the longest time, it has been the one with the shopping cart about what Bitcoin buy, like at the beginning and at every year, like the shopping cart get increased.
Okay, I'm gonna find that one so we can pop it up to show it for the listeners. But yes, okay, you know what? I have to agree. That was one when I saw that one in 2018. I was like, this is genius. That really hit me too. I totally agree. Completely agree. All right, guys. This wraps up the numbers, and we are going to move on over to our Fireside Chat. The Fireside Chat is brought to you by CypherSafe. Check them out, CypherSafe.io. You can't trust paper. You can't go storing your seed on paper. That's just, it's not good enough. You need to store your seed in something that is virtually indestructible. Store your seed in the Cypher Grid. It also comes with an awesome little punch tool, beautiful packaging, great product. Check it out at CypherSafe.io. If you appreciate high-quality, intricate Bitcoin art, check out the Bitcoin Rolo Triangle. 16 ounces of solid titanium. Absolutely beautiful art, brought to you by Bitcoiners. Check it out at CypherSafe.io. That is the Bitcoin Rolo Triangle. All right, guys. You know who's on the Fireside Chat. We've got Nicolas Dorier joining us, the Emperor of BTCpayServer, as I said at the beginning. So Nicolas, thank you very much for joining us. Now, I'm going to start this off with, and again, this is a tweet that for those of us who have been in the space for a while, I could tell you that this particular tweet impacted me, but I want to start off our conversation with this because I think it was a very important time in Bitcoin's history. And I don't know that you necessarily thought that your tweet was going to have the impact that it did. So here we go. August 17th, 2017. I remember that time. Yep, I was wasting my time with shitcoins. Anyways, and then I stumbled onto this tweet response from Nicolas that got me thinking, whoa, who are these Bitcoin dudes? And why are they so angry? Anyways, here we go. What Bitcore users need to know to be ready for SegWit activation? The BitPay blog. And then Nicolas responded with this epic tweet that just, I think, changed everything going forward. This is lies. My trust in you is broken. I will make you obsolete. And dude, I think you're the only one that actually stepped forward and said and did what you said you were going to do. Like, you just destroyed them. So look, tell me about that time. Tell us about that time in Bitcoin. Why was this so significant? Why did you feel so wronged by BitPay?
So it was, so yeah, that was during this blockchain war of Bitcoin where, before that, actually, like 1 year before that, I was big fan of BitPay, actually. And like I was kind of pushing customers to use it and like to integrate to their website, and I really like it. Like I had nothing to complain about that. But during the blockchain war, I saw that they tried to mislead merchants. Like in this tweet, what you can see is that they are concealing the reality of what was happening, where there was a very big contentious decision between big block and small block, and basically they were not entering into the detail in this block size, said to their merchant, oh, you have to do nothing, trust us, and everything will be fine. And they don't explain the problem. So it was a very dishonest situation, and I was really pissed off about that. And the fact that I bring them customers that they were using it against me, then I decided, okay, I will need to find a replacement for them for at least the customer I brought them. So my immediate goal was, okay, all those customers did all these integrations. I need to do an open source project where they can just like change the URL and like use my open source project rather than BitPay. So that was kind of my immediate impression. And so the Bitcoin war was, I think that was the only time where I was afraid for Bitcoin. Like, nobody is sure about Bitcoin future, but it was the only time where I considered selling and not looking back and like stopping this shit basically. So it was very difficult times. Yeah, when I saw they were, so at the beginning it was kind of just a fight, you know, like they both are their point and they yell at each other and everything. But from this point is when I started seeing they were intentionally misleading their own customer. And like for me, it's you know, it's like you can disagree with somebody, but at one point when somebody do something more morally reprehensible, then you know it's over. Like the trust is it's what I say, like it's over, trust is broken. Like you gone too far, there is no stepping back from what you did. So that's when I say, okay, now I will work on doing BTCpayServer basically.
What was the I guess what was the initial response from the Bitcoin? I hate using the word community because it's just a whole bunch of random people, right? It's like, yeah, sure, you could call it a community, multiple communities, but what was the initial response?
I barely remember it because when I kind of tweeted it, I know that some people were kind of happy I'm working on this, but like nobody was expecting I will you know, like taking it seriously for months and months, and I get so many people involved at the end of the day. So I mean, at the time, I think it was not epic at all. It was just a normal tweet. Like what make it epic is that, like you know, keep going. It's like a marathon. That's now it's like what, 6 years, and we're still continuing. That's what make it epic more than the fact that I wrote it at the time.
So what was your biggest challenge when you first started the BTCpayServer project? What would you say was the biggest challenge?
Well, like I think the biggest challenge at first is to get the first user, like like getting the first guy that will finally come on your Slack channel and start asking question or yell at you that because it's not working, because you know it's when you get your first guy that actually care for something. So I guess that was the most the most difficult first step. And yeah, I mean, like after it's kind of a, you know, it's kind of a feedback loop where you get your first person, you reply to his question, you try to solve this problem, and he stick around, and then he's happy with you, so he talk to somebody else. Then you know it's like more and more people coming, and we are just still doing that every day, like still following this same model, and I feel it works pretty well. And yeah, so it's very difficult to start at the beginning. I think all projects are like this. At the beginning, you You just want one person to care at least to give you feedback and use your stuff. And then after, it's just a question to sticking with it.
I like that. Yeah. I like that. Just get one person to care. It's absolutely true. I do agree with that. So let me ask you also this. Yeah, I just want to ask you everything I could think of right now. So why did you choose specifically to go open source? Because this is something that we explain when we do our BTCpayServer monthly updates, is that BTCpayServer is not a company. It's not a corporation. It's completely open source, and you guys all work together. So why did you choose that model instead of going the route of a corporation?
So there is two reasons. One is that I wanted to destroy the business model of BitPay because I was pissed. So like, if there is a free alternative that people can use, then why the fuck you are going to pay somebody to handle that? So it was one of the reasons. So the reason is that as well, like during the fork war, what we saw is that even if Bitcoin was decentralized at the protocol level, like, I mean, there was bit mining centralization, but it was not that bad. A bit too bad for some people, but it was kind of okay. There was lots of node, but despite of this, there was centralization problem because everything that was built on top of Bitcoin was owned by companies. And those companies become more and more powerful and start doing this kind of shit that happen. So, and the only way to defend against this is by making Bitcoin hard to change in a way. And the way you make it hard to change is by having everybody running their own like stack on top of it. And like, I mean, when everybody is like doing their own stack, you cannot go to one single company and say, oh, you will use this fork instead of this one. Like nobody will follow. So like going the open source way and distributing to widely lots of people and making it impossible to change like they tried to do was very important to me. And there is as well another reason is when you are developing a solution. So I'm a developer. I don't want to spend my time, like doing compliance shit, like having to prostitute yourself to investor to get enough money to pay a fucking lobbyist that allow you to get a paper like by a fucking bureaucrats. It's not the kind of stuff that I want to do. I want to focus on coding and all of this. Like if you're a company, then you need to do all of this shit I don't want to do, and you are limited at every corner. Like if you want to do a payment processor and run and be worldwide, it's impossible. Like every fucking country will ask their own bribe. Like every company will try to lobby against you or do or do some shit. Like it's a fight you cannot win. Like it requires lots of funds, like lots of funds. So it means that you need to prostitute yourself to VC, and even if you do, and lots of lawyer, and even if you do this, like you never know. Like you bribe someone, then he get for some reason, like he moved to somewhere else, and then you need to bribe the other person. It's not. You're not working to make the life easier to the merchant or to the customer. You're just like most of your time is spent bribing people to get your business running, basically. So the nice thing when you're open source is that you don't have to give a shit about that. Like it's spread across border in way easily. Like I mean, you just need an internet connection, like reading some English documentation, and you can just run your BTCpay server. Like it's way easier to conquer a market from an open source perspective than it is by being a company, even if the company is like supported by lots of VCs. Like most of the money of the VCs would go to lawyers. Like they won't go to the product. So I only have to focus on the product, which is way simpler than all the rest.
I absolutely love that. And actually, while you were explaining that, it kind of brings up the point because you explained this about the lawyers and everybody wanting their bribes. So I have to ask you, right? Because clearly, I mean, in my eyes, what you guys are doing at BTCpayServer is incredibly disruptive in terms of payment processing. And even though the whole world may not really realize it, my question to you is this. Have you been approached by any of the, I guess, the financial world, and kind of like, I guess, pushing on you guys? Like, can they even push on you guys? Can they get you to stop doing what you're doing? Has there been any type of, I hate to use the word threat, but
No, never,
no?
never. Like, I mean, like, why threatening us? If they want to do a centralized payment processor, they can just fork BTCpayServer and build on top of it. And we're kind of happy in a way. Like, the best way to we also encourage this model. So there was this conference in that we have gone, Bitcoin Prague, and in front of us there was this payment processor that was called the LNPay, and we was wondering what they were doing, and later they come to us. We're so happy to see you guys from BTCpay and everything, and they say, actually, our payment processor is a fork of BTCpayServer, and we just like customize stuff inside of it. And we're on my side, I'm super happy about that. I'm encouraging the business to, if they want to do their for profit on top of the BTCpayServer, that they do it. The best enemy to what I'm saying is that, imagine you are fighting against a company. At the time it was BitPay. The best way you fight those companies is by having other businessmen doing it for you. So like, you provide those tools to other companies and they fight on the marketplace and push them out of competition. So that's I'm encouraging this system. So why threatening me? They can just build their own shit on BTCpayServer, you know.
Dude, that is some 4D chess right there. I like that. Okay, so I'm going to ask the flip side of this question, okay? And which is, okay, so haven't gotten anything bad from these types of payment processors, but have you just explained to me that a company forked BTCpayServer to use on top of that, but have you gotten, has anybody reached out to you from the legacy financial system to figure out how to implement BTCpayServer? And when I say somebody from the legacy, like MasterCards, Visas, you know, Citibanks, like I'm talking about those types of players.
No, I think not really. Like, BTCpayServer, even if in the Bitcoin community, I think is quite a well known.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think like financial institutions are very interested in the payment aspect of Bitcoin right now. I think they are more into like the investment thesis of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So we never got really reach out about that. Yeah, maybe one day, I don't know, but for now it never happened.
Oh, very interesting.
Why do so many European Bitcoiners end up in Japan?
Starting by Corpelas. Like, I don't know, like, frankly speaking, Japan is a pretty great country to live in. Like, you know, you go out at the middle of the night, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the street, like you don't fear anything happening to you. Like you even if you are in the middle of the night, your wallet fall into the ground and you go back home, like the day after you go to the police station and you will find your wallet. Like, is that safe?
Wow.
Like, the only so there is two downside for living in Japan. One is that there is lots of social pressure, but as foreigner, you don't have any social pressure because they kind of consider you kind of different in a way than Japanese. They have more social pressure between Japanese than with foreigners. And so that's good. And the other downside is, in general, like, Japanese companies are pretty hard to work with. But I'm kind of lucky, I think, in the Bitcoin industry, and as well, like the company I'm working in DG. It's like I never got any problem. I'm just wondering sometime why they are hiring me and leaving me so much freedom to work on BTCpayServer. You know, I cannot. So I'm golden in a way, and I think lots of Bitcoiners are also golden, like to find great company in this industry. I mean, it's a very nascent industry, so it means that most company are maybe startup and they don't have the same culture as old Japanese companies. So I think that's playing for it. And yeah, Japanese girls are wonderful. So it's a nice country, nice place to be.
Clearly many Bitcoiners have Japan fetishes, because even Satoshi Nakamoto is named in a Japanese style, despite clearly being at least part British. You can tell by the humor, right? The classic line of how does it go? I don't have time to convince you, sorry, or something like that. Like, yeah, clearly isn't Japanese, but Japanese name. I find it interesting. Of course, you know, was I believe Mount Gox based in Japan? Am I wrong about that?
Yes.
Interesting.
So some of these early kind of Bitcoin stuff was Japan. Interesting.
Yeah, it's a pretty great country very safe.
One further question for you. We had I somehow summoned Rockstar to the show a couple months ago, and then had the pleasure of hanging out with him a bunch in Miami. And he talked about how he wanted to contribute to Bitcoin, but contributing at the kind of application layer rather than at the base layer, he saw as being more useful. I was thinking about the numbering of layers earlier today. I was thinking, okay, so if Bitcoin is base layer and Lightning's layer 2, and then if you do an app using Lightning, is that layer 3? It's like if you do an app using layer building on top of layer 1, is that layer 2? So is BTCpayServer like a kind of layer 2? Like how does it? So how do you determine what counts as a layer, or like if you kind of have applications that are built on top of layers? How do you think about this thing?
The context of layer is different from what you're. So in Bitcoin world, layer 1 and layer 2 is like Bitcoin and Lightning, but I think what Rockstar was referring
Lightning is
more
a layer 2 though, right? Like this is something, again, people forget. Lightning isn't the layer 2, it's a layer 2 implementation, right?
Yeah, but I mean, what Rockstar was referring to was more the software layer kind of things, more than the Bitcoin layers. And in the software layers, what he means is, I started working on Bitcoin in 2015, and for learning Bitcoin, I started creating my own library in C#. So that's the kind of the first layer. You know, you do a library. It's something that only other developers are doing, and so it's very what he called by base layer.
C#? Because my understanding is Bitcoin is in C++.
Yeah, so C# is simple. It's because I work on it for like at the time it was already 7 or 8 years. I was working on this environment. I was very proficient in it, still is, and I really love this language and like this the developer environment that turn around that. So yeah, I created this library, and the thing is that when you make a library, only other developer care about, like user care about that. But then a library is also not enough to make a app that user care about. You need to make an app for user caring about. So you need another layer. And I found out actually before creating another app layer that normal user is using, I found out that in Bitcoin there was something that was missing that was called a UTXO tracker. So basically, when you want to spend or receive in Bitcoin, you need a way to track the UTXO for wallets. Say, okay, you have a notification when a new Bitcoin comes in or stuff like this. You need some software component to provide an API to do this kind of stuff. And all the choice at the time suck. I mean, I tried Bitcoin Core, I tried Electrum, I tried a few other. I don't remember it top of my mind, but they all sucked. And I created my own that is called the NB Explorer. And actually now lots of companies start using NB Explorer in their backend. They just don't talk about it because it's kind of like a kind of techie stuff that only tech people, only like developer know about. But then on top of this, you can finally develop your own service and focusing on like, for BTCpayServer Is payment processing. So you have these three, you have the app layer, payment processing, you have the like UTXO tracking layer, you have like the library layer, and like at the end of the day, what Rockstar meant, I guess, is that he wanted to work on something that's normal people use, and that's the final layer, that's BTCpayServer. But all the different layer, like I built it over time before BTCpayServer, basically.
I have to admit that was very interesting to me. I never really thought of it in terms of that layering structure. So
yep.
that was very cool, man. Thank you very much for explaining that. That was very cool.
So now, yeah, I'm trying to encourage like people to use NB Explorer. So like I said, it's the UTXO tracker. Lots of projects are using it, and if you if you want to make a wallet that accepts like millions of address and like have like hundreds of thousands of UTXO, the only one that will not let you down is NB Explorer. So I will advise you to take a look at it if you have problems like tracking your UTXOs.
Oh, very nice. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna have to bug you after the show to get the link for that, so we can add it to the show notes. I definitely appreciate it. Walton, do you have any more questions for Nicolas?
If BTCpayServer is not a company, but an open source project, how do you retain your emperor title?
Because okay, you mean why I'm not hosted by somebody else because I don't own the shares
how come Rockstar hasn't like done a coup? Like, well, how do you keep him in line? No, like, how do you stay top dog?
Well, I'm working every day on that. So I think so long as I mean, open source in general is kind of a meritocracy type of thing. So like so long as you do the work, like why people will host you. Like if you want to host me, basically you need to do as much work as I'm doing, and I'm working all the time on it. So it's kind of very difficult.
It's very well said. It's funny because actually, once a month on PlebUnderground we do the BTCpayServer update, and I remind everyone that you guys remind everyone that the bugs are to be fixed, not eaten. And the last update, I think it was you and one other guy that did like all the bug up. I said, oh, Nicolas knows he's coming on the show in a couple weeks, and that we're going to talk about the updates, and so therefore I know he's putting in the work here, just so you know he can. This is his proof of work in advance of coming on the show. But yeah, you're right. You say how do you stay top dog? Is you lead by getting the work done, and fixing those bugs.
Yep, that's a nice part of open source. Rather than companies, you know. In companies is who has the money, who gets the title. Like in open source is like who is doing the work, basically.
Proof of work.
Yep.
Go. We absolutely love it. All right. Well, look, this wraps up the Fireside Chat, and we're gonna move it on over to REKT. REKT is brought to you by Crypto Cloaks. Check them out, cryptocloaks.com. Amazing 3D prints made by fellow Bitcoiners, such as the 3D printed grenade. That's right. It holds 2 open dimes. Get the larger one, and you can fit a full signing device. Use the code PlebUnderground for 5% off everything in the shop at CryptoCloaks.com. All right, guys, you knew that we were going to have to take a look at some of this Ben McKenzie crap because for people who don't know who he is, he was an actor on this show called The OC, and that was probably the last thing he ever did. And now all of a sudden, he's sitting there advocating
Confession
against.
time. I actually kind of liked The OC. Like, it was quite,
Yeah, of course,
quite
it was great
entertaining
back
show.
then.
But like, it's just mid-level acting, and that's still what he does, right? Like.
And that's a very good point that you say that, because he's definitely taking a stance against proof of work and Bitcoin, and anytime.
Well, I kind of like Gotham as well. Did you see that show? You see Gotham?
Yeah,
It wasn't bad.
I didn't see it. Nicholas, did you see Gotham? You don't seem like the guy who watches any TV. I feel
But
like
it was less about him, in fairness.
happened.
Like the other actors in it were good. Like,
it's just people like us who are watching TV, Walton.
Yeah, the only way I know
watching
about
TV.
them is when they complain about Bitcoin and they pop up on my Twitter.
Exactly. Okay, so here we go. This is the tweet from Adam Back. This is what's going on with former actor Ben McKenzie, and it's funny that he puts former in brackets because, yeah, there's an implication there. He shorted Bitcoin or possibly alts, got wrecked, but did not learn his lesson. Now he's doubling down on how he must be right. It was the market that was wrong, on the cusp of a bull market into a halving year. And here, let's just take a look at the screenshot. He essentially bet 250K on the crypto market would collapse, but got the timing wrong and lost most of it. Did that make him question his position? Guys, this is the, not that there's a lot to comment on this, but clearly Ben McKenzie is wrecked. Okay, clearly he doesn't understand what he's doing. And unlike the rest of us who had to actually take an honest look at what we were doing when we got wrecked and realize why we got wrecked, Ben has a fantastic platform with a whole bunch of circle jerkers that bring him on shows, and that he can sit there and cry about it and try to essentially coerce other people into not learning about it. Okay, so yeah, you know what? He's wrecked. He is definitely wrecked, and he's not doing anything good for his reputation. But we're going to move on to the big part of wrecked, because the Bitcoin companies, the privacy stuff. This is something I was not aware of, and I saw a tweet about it yesterday. So we're going to dive into it right now. Fellow pleb at retweet. Has anyone from Umbrel given a statement on this? Is Umbrel capturing user IP addresses? And this is a tweet thread from Run Citadel. For the people who don't know who Run Citadel is, it's a newer node. I did the install, actually.
It was actually a guy that used to work there, Phil, that got that left, that was like 14 or 15 years old doing code. I actually retweeted this both from my personal one and from the PlebNet account, because I run that. So yeah, like I tried to give this publicity because I think it's not good, and certainly there were a lot of people in PlebNet using Umbrel.
But can I see the code?
Thousands of Bitcoin plebs using Umbrel. They should be aware of this. And Umbrel should respond.
Do you want to see the code?
Yeah. Why they are complaining? I don't understand, because all I see is just a ping to know if there is a new version for Umbrel. So why do they say it served no purpose?
I'll go through it, right? We'll go through the thread so we could take a look. So here's what Run Citadel said. New idea certain Bitcoin nodes are implementing, tracking every user's IP address and currently running version. So to your point, right, the devs, they want to know the version. That totally makes sense. Version counting can be useful from a developer perspective, but IP address and location, that really shows how little some commercial projects care about privacy.
But where does it show it? Share location and IP address?
So here, this is what he says. Run Citadel says, if you're wondering what I mean, it's this part of the code, an hourly ping that looks like a harmless update checker, but serves no purpose except sending your IP version and number to the developers every hour. So let's take a look and see if we can actually find it. I see the current version here. This is the piece looking for the current version.
Because they did a to-do and they didn't implement it anything. That's why.
I don't see anything about the IP here.
Yeah, I mean, like when you're making a HTTP request, that's true that your IP get leaked, but I mean, I mean, if they wanted to make this feature to show an update, if there is a new version, there is no like lots of way to do that. Like you have to do this kind of loop. I think what he's complaining is just that this loop is empty. There is a comment in the if inside the loop. So actually it serves no purpose. But I mean, it could have just been like, a developer that did this and, move to some other task and to do it later and that just forget about it. I don't know what the purpose of Umbrella is behind this, but to me, it doesn't seem they are doing something malicious as far as I see.
Yeah, and to your point, right? This is kind of where I find it, interesting for REKT, because I like I said, I was part of the beta program for Run Citadel, because I just love to test out all the nodes when they come out. I just think it's so fun. And I mean, you could clearly see that their whole UI is ripped off from Umbrel or borrowed or whatever terminology anybody wants to use. So I do find it kind of interesting that they're kind of poking Umbrel for this, because it's kind of like almost the same product. So is it more, to me, to your point, Nicolas, I feel as though it's a little bit more just engagement farming for their node, maybe. But
yeah.
In terms of tracking, like look, right? In terms of tracking IPs, I mean, in your eyes, how often have you seen developers add specific code to gather data for a malicious intent, right? I'm talking about in a commercial product like this.
Oh yeah, it happen all the time normally. Yeah. Yep. Like I'm using Windows, so it's even worse. But yeah, it's for commercial product, and especially like a closed source one. It's like very. It's not this kind of thing where they only send like the as for the last version. It's like you really have a JSON with like the MAC address of your computer, like your IP address since when you rebuild it, and like this type of information that is completely crazy. So I don't know, for me, like what Umbrella do is doesn't seem wrong. I think it's just like I suspect a developer that overlooked that he didn't finish the feature he wanted to do. Maybe it's true, and maybe Umbrella like is taking note of which IP is running, but there is no reason to suspect it's something done in a malicious intent.
Yeah,
I've just shared an update, Phil, in the chat, because apparently the Luke Childs from Umbrel replied, and then there's a reply from Run Citadel.
Okay, so here we go. All right, so the code in question regularly pings the Umbrel update server and ignores its response. I don't see how this is related to checking, to update checking. Let's take a look here. Code snippet in Umbrel seems to have caused some confusion among our users. At the same time, we love how vigilant the community is when it comes to privacy. So let's cut through the noise, get straight to the facts, and set the record straight. The code in question regularly pings our update server to check if a new Umbrel OS update is available. This is standard practice in update system. Yeah, it is, absolutely. And how most operating systems work. It was speculated that we are harvesting IP addresses. This is not true. Speculating that this is the case is like speculating that Docker Hub is harvesting your IP every time you download a Docker image. Well, to a certain extent, it probably is. But, or that GitHub is harvesting your IP every time you clone a Git repo. IPs are inherently shared when you connect to any service on the internet. I can 100% confirm that Umbrel does not retain IP addresses or keep them around after the connection is closed. This code is part of phased transition to our new update system based on the feedback from several users who don't always see a new Umbrel OS update notification. Okay.
So I mean, I agree with what he said, but I think he's missing the point that in the loop actually is doing nothing. Like the main complaint is that the complaint is not about like to have a loop for checking updates. I think this is fine. The complaint I see from Run Citadel is that this loop exists but doesn't do anything.
The loop exists but doesn't do anything.
And he didn't reply on this fact.
Yeah, I think you're right. And to your point, right, the Run Citadel thread goes on much longer and also asserts that, of course, right, they're going to say, hey, look, you know, anybody who's doing this is going to say, oh, we made a mistake. Oh, we overlooked it. So essentially, by providing that rebuttal beforehand, it kind of leaves Umbrel no room to really say anything. It doesn't even matter what Umbrel says at this point because, yep, that's right. You know, we did this or we missed it and we overlooked it. And this is some of the data that we are receiving. They're not necessarily harvesting the data, but I don't think that's the point. The point is that they're receiving the data. So it's a bit of a gray area. But I also think it's maybe, you know, maybe it's a good argument for running a VPN. You know, if you really care so much, run a VPN. And again, I'm not saying that VPNs are, you know, 100%. As we know, there is data leakage through VPNs in some way, but at least you can cover yourself with like an extra layer.
I think it's a drama in a teapot a bit.
It is drama. That's what it is, right? It's like they're stirring the pot. I agree.
Yeah.
They're definitely making some noise on purpose to bring attention. All right, guys, this wraps up REKT, and we are going to move on over to the Hopium.
The Hopium. Up next, we have Hopium, sponsored by Represent. Represent are a Bitcoiner-owned business based out on the West Coast, producing a whole range of apparel and accessories, including amazing shirts like this one that you can't buy, but you can buy something nearly as cool if you go to representltd.com, and if you use the code PlebUnderground, you'll get a discount on all of the goodies. Once again, that's representltd.com. Welcome back to Hopium. This week we have 3 stories. The first story is that the Fiat oil bros are collaborating more in their corrupt takeover of everything in the world, with the Saudi Aramco CEO joining the BlackRock board, and someone hypothesizing that therefore this means that Aramco is mining Bitcoin. Now, Aramco, for those of you that don't know, is the Saudi oil and everything else corporation. Aramco is possible. By some estimates, it's bigger than Apple. Some people say it's not quite as big, but it's you know, it's way before. It's the largest private company in the world. I think like there's it's up there kind of with the largest public companies in the world, like Apple, and you know, some of the oil companies and this sort of thing. They've Nicolas here sharing some data. So apparently Aramco are number 4 in the world. It goes gold, though not a company. Then Apple, Microsoft, and then Aramco. Silver is in at 6th. Bitcoin currently 12th. So Aramco, by market cap, just over 2 trillion. Bitcoin just under 600k. So it's 3 to 4x Bitcoin right now. So quite a big deal in terms of movers in the world. Are they mining Bitcoin? Probably. What was interesting, actually, I saw Kuwait banned the mining of Bitcoin, or the Bitcoin in general this week, and apparently Kuwait was actually the cheapest place in the world to mine Bitcoin. The Middle East has an energy surplus with a lot of oil. Of course, Kuwait, you know, there was some Kuwait's the reason that the Iraqi war really happened, you could argue. It's more about control of Kuwait. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent, but Yeah, so you can mine quite cheap in the Middle East because energy is really cheap. I imagine sand is and the wind and cooling different challenges, but energy certainly is very cheap in the Middle East. Is it good that Aramco are joining up with BlackRock? Probably not. But is there already this thing called the petrodollar, where there is a serious alliance between Saudi and the United States financially, economically, and for power across the world? Yes. So does anything really change? I don't know. Guys, what do you think?
I'm gonna let Nicolas go first.
Good question. I have no fucking clue what's going on the macro perspective, but I mean, like, Bitcoin is good for everybody, you know. Be small company, big company, it's good for you. So I'm happy to join.
I like the. Oh, go
I
ahead.
was thinking actually, there's definitely some, and I haven't quite got it, but there's some jokes to be made about, like, so we say that hodlers, right, have diamond hands, right, or like not paper hands. Like in Saudi, they have corporal punishment to do with stealing. So if like people steal stuff, then they get their hand chopped, their finger chopped off, and then their hand chopped off. Well, then like with Bitcoin not being able to be stolen, that means that then like everyone has more or better hands, something like that.
It's an interesting perspective on the hands. It's an interesting perspective. So for me, I definitely see why this is Hopium. It's kind of like two evil empires combining together. I mean, obviously, Bitcoin is for enemies. So hey, if Aramco is somehow mining Bitcoin, then hey, that just adds more hash, right? Just it's more hash, more security. I don't have a problem with it. But to Nicolas's point, right? It's this is all macro stuff, and to tease yellow, Bitcoin is all macro now. So there's no,
it's not. Fuck macro.
No, dude, listen, we're entering the bull market. Nobody cares about the specifics anymore. That's it. It's all gone until we crash again. For now, it's what Yellow said. It's all macro. All we care about is the big picture. All we want is everyone that's huge, that has tons of money, to go and start buying Bitcoin and start mining Bitcoin. Everything is macro, Walton. You're not gonna beat me to it. And the last piece I want to say is, you kept calling it Q8. Isn't it Kuwait? Not that I just found it funny.
This might just be like an Americanism versus English.
The tomato thing.
Like there's a whole bunch of these things, dude.
I was like, you keep saying Q8. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, me too.
It's like,
I was confused for a while.
A lot of people in England will say Dubai when it's Dubai. It's like some things I get really obsessed about. It's like I have to say chorizo. But some people in England will say chorizo, and it's like I can't deal with it. Like how are you gonna or we'll say guac, whereas like Americans like, wait, what? Like it's guac. It's guac. like what is it? What difference does it make? Like you're both mispronouncing like a foreign word anyway. Like
I don't know. That kind of stuck out to me. It's kind of stuck out to me.
Okay, so talking of evil empires, that cues up the next story for Hopium perfectly, which is the most evil of crypto empires. Maybe not quite, but like one of Binance enables Lightning. Bullshit. Basically, like you can't pay your own Lightning invoices from Binance. You submit that you want to withdraw via Lightning, and then there's still some approval needed in the background. So they haven't really done it because it should be permissionless, instant, and cheaper, and apparently it's not. So fuck you, CZ. Yeah, guys.
Nicolas, I definitely, I don't know if you saw this, but I want your take on this for sure.
Yeah, I mean, exchanges, everybody know whatever they add, they don't give a shit about the tech. You know, it's like for them, it's just one more way of getting deposit, one more way of getting a withdrawal. That's it. They don't care about anything else. So yeah, I'm not surprised about this situation because for them it's like everything else. So they don't want to use a specific feature that make Lightning great. But I mean, it's kind of encouraging in a way that they did it because they I hope they are getting some feedback. I guess they are seeing it, and well, from there they can like slowly improve upon it. However, it's still unclear if they will because like from their perspective, they may say, "Oh, we did this," then it's crossed, and like trying to make that a bit better doesn't really improve our bottom line. So I don't know. Like in a way, I'm happy they did it. It's better than nothing, but yeah, it's a bit underwhelming, I must say.
I think you make a great point. Oh, sorry, Walton, go ahead.
I think they care about two things. They care about liquidity and solidity.
And fees. I mean, look,
Fees, they like fees.
they love fees.
Like that's the point. What fees is bad for them? So I don't know, but for example, in Japan, like the way exchanges make most of their money, I would say, is not on like fees on the trades. It's on fucking withdrawal fees.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
people don't account for this sort of stuff, and it annoys me. It's like
they don't.
They don't account for they talk about fees, but then they don't talk about the spread. It's like you've got to look at the overall thing. Or like someone to me was trying to convince me that you should always be looking to spend Bitcoin, like always spend and replace. I'm like, but then like if the person you're giving Bitcoin to isn't going to keep it, all you've done is made exchanges richer by 1% because you paid them 0.5% when you bought it, and they're paying 0.5% when they're selling it, and the exchanges are just making 1% on us, and you haven't actually stored more value in the Bitcoin system. It only works if you're paying someone who's got to hold the Bitcoin, and then you're turning fiat into Bitcoin and storing it in the system. Like that makes sense. Doesn't make sense if they're gonna sell the Bitcoin. So yeah.
Yeah, I kind of agree with this. Like, why? Yeah. So sometimes I have the impression some people want, I want to pay by Bitcoin with credit card, so they put their credit card. The credit card buy Bitcoin. The Bitcoin are sent to the merchant. The merchant automatically convert back to fiat, and you're like, why?
What was the point of this?
Just fucking use fiat.
But to your point, Nicolas, I think that this is something that a lot of people don't pay attention to. And if you go back to the exchanges, especially prior to 2018, you'll go, let's say, transfer your Bitcoin to an exchange and then go to try to remove it from the exchange. And they're going to charge you a minimum fee no matter what. And to your point, that's where they're making the majority of the money. Now, the other piece that I wanted to say about the Binance stuff, right? Look, it's no secret that Bitcoiners troll CZ all day long. I can't tell you how many times I've posted in his threads, when are you enabling Lightning integration? I know that Dick Whitman, fellow Bitcoiner, just pretty much spends days responding back to CZ. When are you enabling Lightning? Where's Lightning integration? So I think to a certain extent, like for them, I feel that to Binance, it's kind of a nothing burger. For us, in terms of perception and stuff like that, yes, indeed, it's Hopium. It's nice to see kind of CZ bend the knee, and do it. But at the end of the day, he doesn't, look, he doesn't really give a shit. This isn't where, he's making any money. And it's not really beneficial to him to enable Lightning. Like it just isn't. That's not where they're making their money. So, again, it goes back to the incentives. So I just, it's definitely Hopium, but CZ is far from what I consider a good actor. That's for sure.
One final story for Hopium this week, and I'm gonna use some technical expertise of our guest here. I'd like to share some work that a friend of mine, Mr. Randy McMillan, who's a core developer, but was a Clubhouse and then Spaces regular. I think early plebnet guy too.
Yeah, he is.
He essentially, there was, I think I reported on this a couple months back, maybe a couple weeks back. I don't know. Time goes weird in the Bitcoin space. That the GitHub was gonna be on Nostr essentially, and I think this is what Randy's been building, something called Nostr with I guess a silent G, like Git Nostr, and I think he's done something, but I'm not technical enough to understand what he's actually done. Have we now? There is already something called. Is it called GitLab? I don't know. I'm not the right person for this, but we've already decentralized GitHub in that people can host their own Git, right? But with it being on Nostr, I think it could be pretty revolutionary. Nicolas, are you aware of this project, and how significant do you think it can be with advancing humanity?
I don't know. Like, actually, I'm often a bit behind the curve in terms of Bitcoin because I'm focusing on my stuff specifically and Nostr. So I started creating an account recently, but it has been like 1 month, so I don't know too much of it right now. But in a general term, like at the beginning of Nostr, I was kind of dubious that it will work because if I understood correctly, they work in a kind of a flood model as well, where somebody make a message and then it's flooded everywhere into the relay, and like the relay sent to the recipients.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it seems that it's a huge problem for how do you implement spam control. And what happened when people were starting to do this, like storing lots of data on this relay? Like, I mean, somebody has to store it, and the storage cannot be free. So, like, I think fundamentally speaking, there is something that will break. I don't know if it's this project Nostr that will break, or if it's the relay that will break, or if, like, the relay to be used at one point, they would just, charge on the amount of data that you have there. I don't know, but I'm not very optimistic that it can work and like just have free storage like this and works wonderfully without problems.
So you're bearish on Nostr? I think that's interesting.
I don't know because I've been proven wrong. I was bearish for it, but it's still sticking around, and like
because Rockstar loves it. Rockstar thinks Nostr is like the future.
What I saw with Nostr that I found interesting is that at the beginning, so there was some free relay, and like when I started joining, I was using this free relay, and Nostr was not working fine, and I ended up like paying some paid relay, and since I added them, then it started working nice. And I think it's maybe there is a business model to do on this. Like if you want to use Nostr, then you need to pay like some sats to just keep it running. Maybe it can work. Just like it's a uncharted territory at this stage. I was not confident on it at the beginning, but I see like people are sticking to it. And over time, they try to make their own like business on top of it, and stuff stick. But this Git on Nostr, I don't know. I have hard time to understand like who will store this data for free, and like what happens if the data is not available. On the user experience, I cannot imagine right now.
It's definitely holding better than Mastodon. It's definitely, I feel like it's getting more traction than Mastodon. I do agree with you about the data, because the reality is that the majority of people that are running Nostr relays are doing it off of Raspberry Pis. So I mean, look, the reality is that for the most part, they're going to have like a 1 terabyte drive that's also hosting their Bitcoin Core node. To your point about the GitHub on Nostr, I agree with you. I don't really think that it's that practical. But again, right, in terms of development and just trying things out, why not, right? It's like, let's try it out. Let's see what the limitations are. Let's see how it breaks. Let's see why it breaks, like, because you know how it goes, right? It's like when you start a project, like you don't necessarily 100% know how you're going to get to the end goal, but you do know that you have to start on the road in order to see like where the next step can be found. So yeah, I think it's cool that they're trying it. Sometimes we do have to have what I always like to call like efforts in futility. It's like we should know what doesn't work. Like we should be certain of what doesn't work. Not to say that this doesn't work. And I love Randy's work. Randy is the one who did the Braille Bitcoin project as well. For blind Bitcoiners. Like that's very cool. So hey, look, I definitely appreciate it, and I do think it fits well in Hopium, Walton. So good stuff, man.
Thanks.
In BTCpayServer, like we are always looking a bit like what the other part of the community is doing, because like for example, for Noster, it's more cooks than me that worked on this, but like cooks very often like look what the community does and try to make a plugin in BTCpayServer. So like some people can try new feature in BTCpayServer without bothering the rest of the people in core. And sometimes like it catch, and we say, oh, people really want that. Like, so what we do is like, instead of making a plugin, then we start integrating it directly into BTCpayServer. So like we kind of support this experimentation and see how it goes. Like a typical example, for example, is a Bolt code payment that we are that are available in BTCpayServer right now. Like it started out as a plugin, like like it was crazy idea, and like Cook say, oh, it's crazy, but I like it, so he did a plugin, and like it turns out that like everybody love it. So we say, oh, fuck it, let's remove the plugin and just put it in core. And I think for Noster, it will follow kind of this. Like there is lots of stuff that are being done. Some might work, some might not work. Like if Cooks or somebody else is interested to doing a plugin, trying to get a new, advantage of a new feature on Noster, then try it. And if people like it, then we just integrate it at the end of the day.
Very nice, very nice. And we do see Cook's name a lot on the BTCpayServer releases.
It really like a crazy like experimentation like this. It's we actually internally we call it the crazy scientist.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. Okay, this is going to wrap up the Hopium segment, and we are going to move on over to our BTCpayServer update. Guys, it's not often that we get the Emperor of BTCpayServer to join us on the show. But when we do, we want him to help us with our BTCpayServer update that we do once a month. And from what I'm hearing, we've got some amazing stuff. We got some amazing stuff coming out. Nicolas, what is happening? 3 weeks ago, you guys dropped version 1.10.3. You had some very interesting fixes in there. What's on the horizon?
So next major release will be in Friday. So I guess 28 or something like this. I don't know. Yeah, 28. So we plan for it 28, and I'm pretty excited about what's coming. So recently, like in BTCpayServer, we started being more focused on the retail side of things. Why? So BTCpayServer on internet, I think we kind of won in a sense that lots of like the majority of merchants now are using us on internet for accepting Bitcoin payments. So like we don't have lots of growth at this point, but where we can grow more is in the retail side. And lots of things in BTCpayServer are not really adapted for retail. So we are trying to improve that a little bit. And also not only for retail, but also for people making a store. We got lots of complaints that it was difficult to get summaries about what happened. For example, imagine every month you need to do your accounting for your business. So there are no central place where they could get all the raw data that they can just, you know, export and send to their accountants. So we kind of tried to take all of these problems, so making it easier for retailer and having a place to get the data that people need to do their accounting in a more effective way. So the big feature in for the next release, I think it will be the reporting feature. So in your store, you will have a new button. You can we call it reporting, and in the reporting, you will have several views on about what you want in your report. So basically, for now, at the beginning there will be 3 different views. The first is easy. It's the report on the on-chain wallet.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by report is like, yeah, you will have 1 line per thing that happened on your on-chain wallet, but you have like some kind of aggregation as well that happened. Like, for example, I don't have it in front of my eyes, but yeah, like how many Bitcoin you received in this period or stuff like this. Mm-hmm. We have another view that is a report on the payments. So 1 line per payments, then you have like some kind of summaries that group that per, for example, per payment method. So you can see at the end of the month, okay, I got like I don't know, $1,000 Bitcoin paid in Bitcoin and 500 paid in over the Lightning Network. You can see it in one simple page, basically. So you have this kind of aggregation of this data, or like, for example, if you are using LN address, you can see, okay, this LN address got that much money. So if you're using Noster and you're using Zaps, then at the end of the month, you can check, okay, I got that much money in Zaps for the whole month, and in a very easy way. And finally, we have one report for, you know, everything that is point of sale or crowdfunding. Mm-hmm. Like we want the merchant to see at the end of the month, okay, I sold 70 coffee, for example, and on those coffee I made, I don't know, 1 Bitcoin. It's a very expensive coffee, but that's an example. Like, yeah, he has kind of the data to see, okay, we sold that, we got that much money on this time period, and he doesn't have to open invoices 1 by 1 to see what's going on. And all those reports, they can be exported in CSV format, nice. Which means that if you really want something that is more complex, you just export in CSV, you open your Excel, you do your pivot table, your analysis, stuff like this, and like you do whatever you want. But the idea is that we provide the raw data, you can export it, and we provide like very simple summaries on this data that if you have simple demands. So I think that's the big features. That's the biggest one. Yeah.
I think that's absolutely massive. Thank you very much. Oh, go ahead.
Another one. I think that merchant, retail merchant will like. So lots of people like our point of sale, but they said like if you have lots of item, it become chaotic. Mm-hmm. So imagine that you have 50 items, like I don't know, 20 drink and 30 dishes. Like the merchant will have to swipe, you know, like a scroll to find the item and click on it. There was no way of having categories to easily like say, okay, I want to filter by drink. So we add that. So now there will be filters on the point of sale. That is very nice.
That is very nice. And actually, yes. You know what? Another feature that people like that is if you have kind of filter, if you're able to filter based on labels. So essentially, like, let's say, you know, like to your point, right? Somebody is, you know, selling drinks or chips or something like that, like, and they just want to see everything that's chips. Like they would simply be able to type like chips in the filter, and every single item that has that as part of their description would show up, and you would see their details. So, but yes. I wanted to go back to something that you said about the reporting before we wrap up this segment. This segment isn't normally this long, but because we have you, of course, you know, we want to dive into this stuff. Something I found incredibly powerful with retail customers, especially large retail customers specifically, is the reporting suites. Customers will tend to be more likely to... So this is kind of how it works with reporting. You don't know the reports you need until you need them. Like, indeed, you can think of basic reporting and stuff like that, but until somebody asks you for like a specific piece of data, you're most likely never really going to dig into the reports. And so I think it's really cool that you guys you're starting to create the reporting framework this early in the product. Because I was working on a product, nothing to do with Bitcoin, that, had been around in the market for over 30, 40 years. And the reporting suite it's always an afterthought. It's always because at the end of the day, we need the rest of the product to do what it does. But to a merchant, if you're looking at it through the customer's eyes, which I think you guys are, you're seeing that, hey, if we can facilitate this, then people are going to want to use this. They're going to look forward to it because they're going to be able to extract data out of it that is meaningful to them and that can help them. So, man, kudos to you guys for doing this. Very cool.
Thank you.
Is there any other update on BTCpayServer that you want to share?
Let me check quick. So there is Dennis as well that worked on the rewrite of the point of sale and the cart view of BTCpayServer. So same feature, except that he recoded from scratch using Vue.js. So it's technical stuff, but it will look modern, a lot nicer, I believe. Very nice. Less bugs because it's a more simpler code by now. So yeah, lots of improvement for point of sale in the next release.
Very nice, very nice. Walton, what do they do with the bugs?
They fix them. They don't eat them.
That's right.
Very important.
Okay? Very important. All right, guys. This wraps up the BTCpayServer update. And of course, this wraps up our weekly show. Before we close out, Nicolas, if people want to find you or talk to you, how can they find you?
You can use Twitter, like my DM are open, like Nicolas Dorier. You can jump in chat.btcpayserver.org where all the community hang around. You can come here. I have also a Noster account. I will not spell it online because it's like lots of letters. But you can find in my Twitter profile. You can find my Noster key. Yeah, wherever is fine.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, we're going to add all of those details to the show notes. And guys, this wraps up the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Help us fight the evil nonstop YouTube algorithm. And of course, don't forget to check out our audio-only platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. If you want to stream us sats, check us out on fountain.fm. You can stream us sats through Breeze. Walton, how do we finish this one, man?
Fuckshitcoins.com. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.
That's right. Catch you all next week.